Love is a phenomenon that cannot be chosen, it happens spontaneously, and we must accept its reality, regardless of the place, the individual, or the legal implications. Even if it means falling in love with your teacher. Sato Ichiro was an ordinary young man, who like most teenagers, highly valued his personal space. One of his favorite places in school was the bathroom, where Sato could find uninterrupted quiet. However, one day, Sato experiences an unexpected turn of events. Upon opening the bathroom door, Sato found his teacher, Kana Kojima, using the men's bathroom. Sato was nervous and tried not to notice, but the shock was so great that Sato stood frozen to the spot. Teacher Kana calmly explained that Teacher Kana didn't know how it happened because Sato had locked the door. Sato then explained that the lock was broken and couldn't close properly. Master Kana then said that Master Kana was forced to use the men's restroom because the women's restroom was being cleaned. Despite this, the Kana teacher scolded Sato for entering without knocking, but decided to let the incident pass this time, partly due to his own fault. On the condition that Sato leave immediately, Sato happily tried to open the door, only to find that the lock wouldn't open. Sato is trapped inside with Teacher Kana, who is known as the fierce teacher, due to her strictness with students as well as her harsh lectures for those who misbehave. To make matters worse, when the Kana teacher calls the parents to discuss their children's problems, the Kana teacher also scolds the parents. What awaits Sato in this situation? The Kana teacher didn't get angry, instead telling him to be quiet because if Sato continued to make noise, it would prevent the Kana teacher from getting his needs met. Sato almost had a nervous breakdown when two people entered the bathroom and Sato thought his salvation had arrived because they could open the door from the outside. However, Teacher Kana silenced him, pressed her face against his shirt, and explained that if anyone found out that a teacher and student were locked in the bathroom, they would think the worst. Sato understood what Teacher Kana was saying, but a shocked silence remained as Sato couldn't believe what was happening. After a few moments of silence, Kana teacher couldn't hold back her need any longer and finally relieved herself right in front of Sato. A week passed, and Sato couldn't get the image out of his head, but he tried not to think about the teacher anymore. One day, Sato decided to go to the school health room to skip class, but when he entered, Sato found Kana teacher there with a bad case of the flu. Feeling weak from her illness, the Kana teacher asked Sato to give her medicine, but the only medicine available was applied in an unconventional way. Although awkward at the time, Kana's teacher told him to do it as her cold was getting worse. However, while they were in the process of administering the medicine in an uncomfortable position, another teacher entered. To avoid any misunderstanding, Sato had to hide under the blanket next to Teacher Kana. Once they were both alone, the teacher thanked Sato affectionately for what he had done, but apologized that he might have infected her with the flu. The next day, Sato fell ill. While Sato was in the hospital, Teacher Kana came to visit him and once again apologized for infecting Sato. This gesture made Sato change his perspective towards Teacher Kana, but moments later, Teacher Kana scolded him severely for finding out that Sato lied about his sprained ankle the day before to skip class. Sato was on his way home from school when a strong storm prevented him from continuing his journey in the rain. For shelter, Sato decided to enter the first place he found, which happened to be a laundromat. Sato was surprised to see that Teacher Kojima was also a victim of the storm and took shelter there. Sato realized that Kojima was soaking wet and asked why Kojima didn't take advantage of the dryers in the place to dry his clothes so he could go home. Kojima pointed out that those were the only clothes he had, so if he did that, he would be left with nothing. Sato offered to give him his shirt while Kojima dried his clothes. Kojima thanked him and changed. However, the storm gets worse and a lightning strike causes a power outage, making it impossible to continue drying the clothes. They decided to look for a switch to turn the lights back on. Kojima carefully climbed over Sato's shoulder to reach the switch located almost on the ceiling. However, another lightning strike was heard, causing Kojima, who had a deep fear of lightning, to falter. As a result, Kojima accidentally poured detergent all over himself. Realizing that this would not work, Sato then tried to climb on Kojima's shoulders. However, the anatomical differences between the men made the attempt fruitless as well. Kojima was furious, and they had to find another method to solve the problem. The other day, Sato visited his mother's house and found to his surprise that Kojima was babysitting a daughter. Sato immediately asked his teacher what he was doing there. Kojima explained that he was an old acquaintance of his mother and that she had helped him a lot in the past. To return the favor, Kojima offered to take care of the child. During their conversation, Kojima revealed that he felt he lacked childcare skills and that his family often pressured him to get married. Although Kojima does not have very high standards, he finds it difficult to find a suitable partner. Kojima wants someone who is young, cares about others, and likes children. The conversation indirectly described Sato, so the two blushed. However, they soon clarified that this was not going to happen. Later, the little girl wanted to use the swimming pool. Kojima immediately joined her in the pool, while Sato played with the girl from the edge. At some point, the girl lost her balance and fell into the pool. Sato and Kojima quickly rushed to her rescue, trying to prevent her from drowning. They managed to lift the girl up at the same time, before she completely drowned. However, due to the momentum and speed of movement, they both blushed for a long time. That night, Sato's mother made a joke about the possibility of Kojima marrying her son. Although Kojima dismissed the joke, he couldn't shake the thought of the accidental kiss. On another day, Sato returned to his room in hopes of finding his beloved otaku bunker full of manga and video games. However, when Sato entered, he found Kojima sitting there. The first thing Kojima said was that Sato should be more organized as all his clothes were scattered on the floor. Sato couldn't believe that during his vacation, Sato kept running into Kojima in the most unexpected places, even in his own room. Kojima explained that Sato's mother had called him and asked him to wait there. At that moment, Sato's mother entered the room with drinks and food to share. His mother then explained that they were there to celebrate Kojima's move into his new home. Afterwards, Sato's mother gave a glass of liquor to Kojima, who began to get drunk with one sip. Later, Kojima commented that during his move, he had found a photo album containing pictures of himself as a student, with Sato's mother and a young Sato. Kojima recalled that as a child, Kojima was so shy that Kojima could not talk to anyone, and Kojima worried that he would never be able to become a teacher. However, in a situation Kojima had with Sato, they talked and Sato made him realize that Kojima had the potential to become a great teacher. From then on, Kojima had a high regard for Sato. Even without knowing that the child was Sato, Kojima, upon being recognized by Sato's mother, expressed his gratitude to Sato. Sato's mother then expressed her wish for Sato and Kojima to marry, with Kojima becoming her son-in-law. However, Sato was uncomfortable with the idea. Kojima is very drunk, so Kojima agrees to do new things with Sato. Kojima asks her to call him Miss, not teacher, when they are out of school. Sato's mom leaves the two of them to do things they like and Kojima starts insisting that Sato kiss him, but Sato refuses, especially since Kojima is drunk. Eventually, Sato kisses him and then Kojima falls asleep from the alcohol. The next day, at school, Sato called Kojima lady in front of all the students, which is considered disrespectful for a teacher. Kojima got angry and scolded him in front of everyone. Sato, thinking Kojima had forgotten the previous incident due to the influence of alcohol, was embarrassed to be called lady by Kojima, which should only happen outside of school. Some friends of Sato's mother invited Sato's family to celebrate a wedding on a tropical beach. When they got there, Sato was surprised to see Kojima playing with his sister. His mother explained that since his father couldn't come because of work, she had invited Kojima to take his place. His mother continues to insist that Kojima will become part of their family after they get married, but Sato doesn't understand why his mother is so adamant and is tired of the insistence. His mother then explained that Kojima had shown that he liked Sato on many occasions. Sato did not believe that Kojima really liked him, even though Sato had feelings for him. Nonetheless, Sato saw that Kojima, who was usually very cold, had shown affection for him on several occasions. Sato did not believe that his teacher liked him, although Sato did have feelings for him, but Sato did not think it was possible. Although Sato had noticed that someone as cold as Kojima had shown affection for him on several occasions. His mother left them both to confess their feelings, and Sato was too embarrassed to look Kojima in the face after what his mother said. Nonetheless, the two of them went to a secluded place to jump into a river, and Kojima asked Sato to apply sunscreen on his back. While doing so, Sato kept thinking that Kojima liked her, and at one point accidentally voiced one of her thoughts wondering if Kojima liked her. Kojima, distracted, responds in the affirmative. Embarrassed after realizing what had just happened, Kojima jumped into the river, but then Kojima felt something bite him and decided to get out of the river. When Kojima told Sato about it, they both saw a sign warning of a poisonous snake in the river. The two had a crisis, and Sato decided to suck the snake venom out of his body to prevent anything bad from happening until Sato realized where the bite was. Although Sato thinks for a moment, he decides that it's a life or death situation, and finally sucks out the venom. Finally, the wedding day arrived, and Sato told Kojima that after Sato graduated, they would have to return to that place alone. At first, Kojima blushed, but then scolded him for not waiting for the right moment to say it. On the way home, Kojima talks to Mayu and tells her that Kojima had a wonderful time on the tropical island. Later, Kojima receives a call from Sato, and they chat happily on the phone. Mayu looks at him with nostalgia because Mayu has feelings for another student, Suzuki, Sato's friend, but Mayu doesn't even have his phone number. Sato tells Suzuki that a few days before he started dating teacher Kojima, which creates a big shock for his friend who can't believe that someone would date a demon, let alone his friend. The worst part of all this was that from that day on, Sato would no longer eat with Suzuki, but now Sato would eat with his teacher. This was especially sad for the boy who because of his hard face could not make friends because everyone was afraid of him. Mayu's teacher observed Suzuki eating alone and decided that Mayu should seize the moment. Mayu approached him to propose that they eat lunch together. Suzuki asked if Mayu wasn't afraid of him like everyone else, and Mayu replied that no teacher should be afraid of his student, which made the boy excited. Afterward, the two began to share their respective meals and Mayu learned that Suzuki really liked to cook. However, the lovely lunch was interrupted as Mayu fell into the fountain while leaning over and got soaked. Suzuki decided to help her not without some discomfort in between, and out of embarrassment, they decided to finish lunch there. But before leaving, Suzuki offered his sweater to Mayu so she could have dry clothes since all her clothes got wet in the fountain. Later, in the locker room, Kojima realizes that Mayu has feelings for Suzuki and asks if Mayu has feelings for him. Mayu does not deny, stating that teachers should not get involved with their students, but Kojima manages to tell from the way Mayu talks about Suzuki that she is in love with him. At that moment, Mayu realized that inside the sweater was Suzuki's train ticket and decided that Mayu would return it to him so that Mayu would have a way to get home. Nevertheless, Mayu ended up taking the train with him and they traveled together. The situation was a bit awkward, as there were too many people and they were crammed together. Suddenly, Mayu's blouse came off and there was no other choice but for Mayu to be naked in front of everyone. Suzuki decided to help her as much as he could even though Suzuki didn't observe well what was happening and ended up buttoning the blouse in an inappropriate way. When getting off the train, a security guard saw Mayu's disheveled clothes and asked if Suzuki did something wrong with her clothes. Mayu used the moment to say that they were a couple and didn't get in trouble with the policeman, but Suzuki didn't want to make him uncomfortable and decided that Mayu shouldn't lie about something as serious as that. Although Suzuki meant well, those words cut deep into Mayu's heart who realized that Suzuki only saw her as his teacher and nothing more. Suzuki found himself in a fast food restaurant ordering a pleasant meal and everyone around him distanced themselves in fear of his intimidating appearance. Suzuki felt uncomfortable as this happened every time Suzuki went somewhere. However, Suzuki heard a woman next to him also ordering food. Suzuki realized that it was Mayu. With the order in hand, they left the place while chatting. Suzuki mentioned that she bought food for his younger siblings and Mayu revealed that she also bought it for her high school sister. They saw the storm approaching quickly. At that moment, Suzuki's younger siblings appeared. They saw that Suzuki had forgotten to bring an umbrella and decided to bring him one. With umbrella in hand, Suzuki offered to accompany Mayu back home while they all protected themselves from the rain. Mayu happily agreed. On the way, the children open their toys and the little one gets angry because he didn't get the one he wanted. Mayu offered her sister's toy, explaining that her sister thought the toy was too childish and never wanted it. The little one thanked her and threw the toy for exchange, but it accidentally got inside Mayu's shirt, creating a very uncomfortable situation even though she tried to play it off. After a while, feeling uncomfortable, Mayu decided to go home alone. In the following night, Mayu and Kojima met at a bar for drinks and both ended up getting drunk. Then Sato showed up to pick Kojima up and take him home, avoiding further trouble and ensuring Kojima didn't walk drunk down the street. Mayu became sad because Mayu also wanted someone to help her with just a message. Mayu remembered the day when she met Suzuki. Mayu had to take an exam to become a teacher, but traffic made her late. Desperate because punctuality was crucial for the exam, Mayu decided to run to school, but on the way, her shoe broke and she dropped the papers she was holding. Thinking it couldn't get any worse, Mayu burst into tears when Suzuki appeared in front of her. Knowing what had happened, Suzuki decided to help her, and drove her to school by carrying her, making her arrive earlier than expected. From that day on, and because of his loving attitude, Mayu fell in love with Suzuki. In the present, Mayu opened her eyes and realized she was on Suzuki's back. Suzuki explained that Sato sent a message to pick her up because Mayu was very drunk. This made Mayu fall in love with him even more and sincerely thanked him for helping her. Preparations for the Kawanuma festival are underway at the school. There, Suzuki, Mayu, and the student treasurer met with the students and teachers of the school to discuss important issues of the organization. At that time they met with student Taka and his teacher Ikari. Taka seemed to be a responsible student and focused on preparations while Ikari had a strange energy and treated him as if Ikari was his brother. Anyway, Taka heads to his room and tells himself that even though Taka is alone, Taka must make it perfect. However, his thoughts are soon interrupted when Taka walks into his room and finds his bed occupied by Ikari. Taka asks what Ikari is doing there and the teacher assures him that the heating in his house is broken and it's too cold, so Ikari decides to sleep in that room. Taka tries to resist, but Ikari has already gone to bed and slept and pulls his hand so they can sleep together. Although Ikari is his teacher, Ikari has known Taka since they were little. They grew up together because their parents worked together and Ikari was always responsible for taking care of him. That's why there is so much trust. Back to our story, Taka tries to break free from Ikari's embrace, but being a sports teacher, Ikari is very strong and after a few seconds Ikari falls asleep, leaving Taka trapped between his body and his arms. As Ikari fell asleep, Ikari stopped exerting so much force on Taka and Taka managed to free himself, but then Taka saw that Ikari's shirt was open and Taka couldn't let anyone see it. Even though it was an accident, it was the first thing Ikari saw. When Ikari woke up, and even though Ikari was calm and told him that Taka looked like a baby for doing that, as Ikari left the room, Ikari still thought about what happened. Meanwhile, Taka is distressed that Ikari still thinks of him as a child despite being in high school. On another day, Ikari forces Taka to accompany him to buy clothes, but not just any clothes, underwear, because now he is an adult and can help him. Taka is really embarrassed and wants to leave, but Hikane won't let him. In order to finish quickly, Taka takes a set of clothes blindfolded and gives them to her. The clothes are very revealing and embarrassing for Ikari, and inadvertently, Taka ends up leading Ikari out of the fitting room wearing only underwear and a jacket. After that awkward moment, the two of them head towards the situation in the past and there are no grudges. From school, one class of students, which includes Taka, goes for a walk in the forest. Although it is a fun activity, Taka feels uncomfortable because after what happened, Taka cannot look Ikari in the eye due to embarrassment. At some point, Ikari made a joke and Taka, in shock, fell into the river. Ikari tried to save him, but in the attempt, Taka also fell and suddenly it rained and took shelter in a cave in the forest. There, Taka begins to feel so cold that he almost reaches hypothermia and seems to start delirious. Ikari wants to help him, but due to his delirium from hypothermia, some awkward situations occur between them. After a while, Taka feels warm, calm, and finally falls into a deep sleep. When Taka wakes up, he realizes that he is on Ikari's lap, taking care of him like they did when they were kids. Later, Taka realizes that since childhood Taka has had feelings for Ikari, and without hesitation, Taka confesses his feelings for Ikari, which leaves the teacher speechless. Days passed and finally the school festival began. Suzuki thought he would spend the day alone, as usual, but by his side was Mayu, dressed as a student so as not to be recognized. Seeing her thus, Ikari teases Mayu, assuring her that if Mayu is doing all that for the boy, it is because Mayu clearly has feelings for her, although Mayu denies it. Later, Ikari tells them about a game Ikari is promoting called Cops and Robbers. Before explaining about the game, Ikari handcuffs Mayu's hands and brings Mayu and Suzuki into a room so they can be alone together. While looking for the key to the handcuffs, Mayu asked Suzuki if Suzuki heard her conversation with Ikari. Suzuki stated that Suzuki should not leave her alone, even though Suzuki heard clearly how Ikari said that Mayu had feelings for him. After some tense events, Suzuki finally apologized to Mayu for causing her trouble. Mayu, despite remembering Suzuki's first words of comfort to her, assured Suzuki that nothing he did caused her any discomfort or trouble. At the same time, Mayu revealed her feelings for Suzuki. Upon realizing her feelings, Mayu ran away without explanation, leaving Suzuki shocked and feeling guilty for overstepping the boundaries of the teacher-student relationship. However, seeing Taka and Sato, Suzuki began to feel that the situation was not so bad after all. One of the festival events is to visit the old building, a very creepy place. To make sure there are no problems, Taka and the treasurer are sent to guard the place. Ikari feels jealous when he sees Taka pretending to be brave, when Ikari knows he's not. Ikari decides to hide inside the building and scare them, but his attempt fails when Ikari gets trapped under a broken floor. While trying to get out, the floor beneath him breaks and Ikari falls to the ground. Suzuki, who tries to help Ikari, makes the situation even more confusing. With the help of the treasurer, they manage to get Ikari out of the situation without anyone noticing. The next day, there were reports of someone dressed as a bear being a nuisance. Despite his malicious intentions, his pranks always managed to reconcile them. Mayu, who mistook Suzuki for a bear, almost made a declaration of love to him. On the other hand, Taka, after a number of accidents, finally confesses his love to Ikari. Ikari, in a state of embarrassment, also confesses that she loves him too. In the end, Tanaka, a waiter at the restaurant where the protagonists often gather, becomes a witness to all the events that take place. While talking to them, they mention that the three of them are dating the teacher at school. Tanaka confidently says that Tanaka will get a girlfriend when Tanaka graduates in 3 months so that they can go on a double date. However, it's not that simple because Tanaka works with all the guys and hardly talks to anyone at school. Her mind is so preoccupied with this that she accidentally bumps into the school nurse, Takinaba, and spills coffee on her. Takinaba was known as a cold and distant figure with the students, and at the moment, Takinaba did not deviate much from that reputation. While Tanaka looks for a spare shirt for her, Takinaba calmly states that Takinaba would rather drink coffee than hear an apology. Tanaka gives her the shirt and Takinaba takes off her own shirt in front of her while putting on the new one. Being nervous, Tanaka tries to move away to avoid, but he slips and falls on the nurse. Although Takinaba felt uncomfortable at that moment, her serious facial expression remained unchanged. However, despite trying not to show her feelings, her body was unable to hide her confusion, which eventually made her feel embarrassed, so Takinaba pushed Tanaka away from her. The next day, Takinaba treats Tanaka's bruises from the fall, but Tanaka runs away. Takinaba then talks to Akari for advice on how to be nicer to students. When asked if there is someone on her mind, Takinaba can only think of Tanaka. On Christmas Day, Tanaka celebrates alone as her parents are away. However, upon entering the dining room, Tanaka finds Takinaba wearing Christmas clothes and holding a video recorder. Takinaba explains that Takinaba wants Tanaka to get to know her better and share Christmas with her, which Takinaba has always spent alone. Tanaka lends her his Christmas drink when Takinaba accidentally spills it. Before leaving, Takinaba gives Tanaka a gift she had been saving in case Tanaka went out with someone. Tanaka happily accepts the gift, revealing a teddy bear that reminds her of her childhood. This is the first time Tanaka sees Takinaba smile. After the Christmas party, Tanaka and Takinaba grow closer. One day, Takinaba asks Tanaka for help with shopping, and they agree that if they win the lottery, they will split the prize. Takinaba buys a ticket and wins 2 tickets for an island stay, which they use for a trip together. During their time on the island, Tanaka realizes that she has fallen in love with Takinaba. On their last day, they plan a night hike in the forest to see the stars, but heavy rain makes them take shelter in a cave. As the sky clears and moonlight enters the cave, Tanaka accidentally confesses his feelings for Takinaba. Valentine's Day arrives, and Tanaka hopes to get chocolates from someone. However, disappointed at not getting any, Tanaka decides to go home empty-handed. However, a snowstorm leaves him stuck at school with Takinaba, who ends up giving him the chocolate she has prepared. Tanaka decides that he should use this moment to express his feelings in a better way. Tanaka believes that if she doesn't do so before graduation, she won't have another chance. Takinaba hears Tanaka's confession but tells him that Takinaba cannot accept it without explaining why. Inside the box of chocolates Tanaka gave her was a letter explaining that Takinaba could only accept Tanaka's feelings after Tanaka graduated, but Tanaka did not read it. Finally, graduation day arrives, marking the end of Tanaka's school journey. On the same day, all the protagonists gather, and while the men plan the trip, the women cook for everyone. In the kitchen, Takinaba gets dirty from cooking, and Tanaka takes her to the room to give her new clothes. Seizing the moment, Takinaba declares her love for Tanaka, explaining that Takinaba could not do so before because Takinaba was her teacher and nurse. Now, after Tanaka graduates, they can be together. Tanaka explodes with joy. The two of them return to the group and everyone continues planning the trip with all the couples, including the newly formed couples.